Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's see. This good? Nice to see you all again. Hare Krishna. I'll speak a little bit. Is the volume okay? How are we doing here? Does this need to be a little lower maybe? Maybe just a tad lower. Like that? Yeah. I thought I'd speak a little something about Dhruva Maharaj. That's the subject matter we've been talking about in my Zoom classes. So I thought I'd speak from there. Maybe get a little ahead of my class also, we'll see. As you know, Dhruva Maharaj was just a 5-year-old boy, like Prahlad Maharaj, son of a king, Uttanapada. And one day his stepbrother was on the lap of the king, and Dhruva Maharaj also wanted to get on the king's lap. But his stepmother was there and enviously said that you can't get on the king's lap because you're not my son. You're not my son. I'm the favorite wife, and so you don't have the right. But if you want to sit on your father's lap, or it's implied on the throne of the king, then you can worship Lord Narayan, and maybe in your next birth, you'll you'll be born of me. And then you can think of these things. So it was a cruel remark, and the boy was hurt and went crying to his mother. And his mother said, "What can I do? It's a fact. Your father is attached to your stepmother. He hardly regards me as anything." But she's given you the right advice, that if you only, what can I do? I can't help you. But if Lord Narayan helps you, then everything is possible. The affection of Lord Narayan is more valuable than the affection of millions of mothers like me. And if he helps you, then it's possible. So your stepmother has said the right thing. Then Dhruva Maharaj, Hare Krishna, Krishna Chandra. Dhruva Maharaj said that, then where will I find Lord Narayan? And his mother said, no, saintly persons go to the forest to find him. So Dhruva Maharaj at once left for the forest. And Prabhupada sometimes says he was looking around the forest, "Are you Narayan? Are you Narayan?" He's talking to the animals, talking to whoever was there. "Are you Narayan?" Looking for Narayan. Lord Narayan saw that this boy is very serious. So he sent Narad Muni to help him. So Narad Muni approached the boy. What are you doing? Yes, I'm determined to get a kingdom. Not only do I want a kingdom like my father's, I want a better kingdom. Better than my grandfather and my great-grandfather. His father was Uttanapada, his grandfather was Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, and his great-grandfather was Lord Brahma. So that means I want a kingdom better than Lord Brahma's. Lord Brahma's planet is the topmost planet in the universe. But the boy, I want a kingdom still better. So Narad Muni said, yes, you can come to the forest and do austerities. You're already embarking on that path. But it's very difficult, and you're just a little boy. Usually little boys play and mess around. So you can, better that you go home, and when you're grown up, then you can come to the forest, you can practice tapasya, austerity, then you can achieve your goal. But Dhruva Maharaj was determined. Sir, please tell me, what do I have to do to see Lord Narayan, to get that kingdom? You please instruct me. And if you can't instruct me, then you go home. So Narad had been testing the boy, how serious is he? And he saw the boy is very serious. These are the prerequisites for real spiritual advancement. The candidate has to be serious. He has to be serious. And when he's serious, then Krishna sees that yes, he's serious, and he sends help. In this case, he sent Narad Muni, or he may send any of his devotees. Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. Then, by the mercy of Krishna, the mercy of the devotee of Krishna, bona fide teacher, he gets the seed of devotional service. So Dhruva Maharaj got that seed. And then of course his desire was materialistic. He wasn't telling Narad that I want to see Lord Narayan so that I can offer him my love, my devotion, so that I can be his eternal servant. I want a kingdom. That's called artarti. In the Bhagavad Gita, 4 kinds of neophyte devotees approach Krishna. Those who are in distress and seeking relief from distress. Then artarti, those who want some material gain, a kingdom or success in business or good grades on their exams or whatever it is they're looking for. Good husband, good wife, good this, good that. Then jigyasu, those who are simply curious. What's this all about? Or gyanis, those who are searching for knowledge. Tesham gyani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate. Krishna says of these 4, the gyanis are the best. Because they're basically looking for me. They're trying to understand me. So they're also looking for knowledge. They're not looking to serve, but still they're the best. So Dhruva Maharaj wasn't on that best platform. He was looking for material gain, looking for material acquisition, a kingdom. But still, he's not excluded. Someone may come for any of these reasons, but because he's approaching Krishna, he's, yes, all right. They're considered pious souls. They're also on the path to transcendence. Even though they're materially motivated, their target is Krishna. If they're materially motivated and they take shelter of demigods, they take shelter of some material means, then all right, material platform. But once someone approaches Krishna, then he's on the transcendental path. So Dhruva Maharaj, and of course, by approaching Krishna, he becomes purified. Not that he stays where he is, but once he's coming in touch with Krishna, that just like a pot, you plug it in, it may take some time, but it'll start to boil. So he's come in touch with Krishna, something's going to happen. So this happened, that he met Narad Muni, and Narad Muni taught him he gave him a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, addressing the personality of Godhead. You chant this mantra and make a form. You don't have a temple here in the forest, but you can take some mud and make a form of the Lord for your meditation and go on chanting. So the boy did it, and he was observing severe austerities. It's mentioned. Let's see, maybe I'll look and find how it's described. It's not all in the memory, not my memory anyway. I love these machines, they drive me mad. They do funny things. Then Prabhupada, Narad instructed Dhruva that you should, while chanting the mantra, you should offer the Lord pure things, pure water, pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers, vegetables in the forest, tulsi leaves. And Prabhupada comments that these pure things may not be available everywhere, so we have to adjust. What we can obtain, we can engage in the service of Krishna. Following in the footsteps of the pure devotees. So, yes, let's see. So Dhruva Maharaj adopts the path of tapasya, severe austerity. Standing on one leg, he's worshiping the Lord. And he's curtailing his eating. In the first month, he only eats fruits and berries. Every third day, just to keep body and soul together. And in the next month, only every 6 days. And all he took was dry grass and leaves. And the third day, all he took was water, and only every 9 days. And in the fourth month, he became a complete master of the senses. So he was inhaling only inhaling air. And that only on every 12th day. And so by the 5th month, his mind and senses were completely controlled, and his mind was focused on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is not the kind of yoga they usually teach here. No one can do this, even now, who can practice such things. But Dhruva did it. So then, the next thing, he became so powerful that by standing on one leg, his weight is pushing down, and pushing down so strongly that the earth was going like this, like a boat that's first going one way, first going another way. The whole earth was feeling the pressure. And when Dhruva Maharaj is practicing yoga, reached the state of equilibrium, the incoming breath is offered to the outgoing breath, outgoing to the incoming. So then you reach Rechaka, there's stasis of breath, not breathing. So then the whole universe was feeling it, because Dhruva had become essentially identical with the Lord. Although he kept his individuality, he became identical with the Lord. And Prabhupada's given 2 examples, one in another place, but here he's given the example that you get in an airplane and everybody's moving at the airplane speed. You don't have to do anything separately. You become one with the airplane, and now you're moving at the airplane speed. Or another example Prabhupada's given, you don't see it here so much, but in India you see it all the time, that someone's riding, say, on a bicycle, and he catches the back of a lorry, the back of a truck. The truck will have a handle or chain, yeah. So he'll grab onto that, and now his bicycle's going at truck speed. So he's still on the bicycle. He's not one with the truck, but he is one with the truck, because he's going at the same speed as the truck. He's joined completely with the truck, so he's moving at that speed. So Dhruva Maharaj became one with the Lord in that sense. He was so intimately connected with the Lord that when he stopped up his own breathing, it was like the whole universe was getting suffocated. And all the demigods approached Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma approaches the Lord, what to do. No, don't worry, it's just this boy. He's doing some tapasya. But he's not evil. It's not a Hiranyakashipu case. He's a devotee. Everything will be all right. Don't worry, you can go back home. We'll see to everything. Yes, we should take some water. Every 9 days. So Dhruva Maharaj was deep in meditation in the forest, and he's seeing in transcendental ecstasy, he's seeing the form of the Lord within his heart. This is the perfection of yoga. People are meditating on a candle, people are meditating on a mandala or something. But real meditation means jnana vastata tadgatena manasa, Pashyanti Yam Yogina. To see the form of the Lord within the heart. So Dhruva Maharaj achieved that. He was in ecstasy, seeing the form of the Lord. And then suddenly his vision of the Lord disappeared. He's seeing, and then the Lord is gone, disappeared. And Dhruva Maharaj thought, now I've lost him. So his meditation was broken, and he opened his eyes, and he saw that the same form of the Lord was now present before him. He saw that the same form was now present before him. So he was, stunned. He was stunned, didn't know what to do, what to say. But then the Lord touched him with his kansha. He has a chakra, a club, a lotus, and a conch shell. The Lord touched Dhruva Maharaj on the head with his conch shell, giving blessings. And then Dhruva Maharaj was able to glorify the Lord. And let's find that verse. Yeah. Yonta Dhruva Vacha, Yonta Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam Sanjiva Yat Jakila Shakti Dhara Swadhamna Anyangs Jahasta Chorana Shravana Tvagadin Pranan Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. Dhruva Maharaj said, my dear Lord, you are all-powerful. After entering within me, you've enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. And Prabhupada says Dhruva Maharaj could understand very easily the difference between his condition before and after attaining spiritual realization and seeing the Supreme Personality of God head face to face. He could understand that his life force and activities had been sleeping. Unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. Unless one is spiritually situated, all his activities are taken as a dead man's activities or ghostly activities. Ghosts are also active, but it's deranged. It's not proper activity, dead man's activities. I'll tell you a short ghost story. I don't usually have weird experiences, but I was visiting my godbrother Tredas in Italy one time. He has a preaching center, and he had a house on the hillside. I forget exactly now which city it was outside of, but a nice little house. I'd stayed there before on the hillside. So I went to visit him, and now he'd acquired the house next door also so that he could accommodate guests and so on. So he said, yes, had someone take me up to the second floor, first floor, second floor, depends which way you're thinking, American or European. and then so your room is here, and so on. So I went to the room and opened the door, and as soon as I opened the door, chandelier in the room crashed to the floor. Just crashed to the floor. And my first thought was, must be a ghost. And then my second thought was, come on. Maybe you, by opening the door, you created some disturbance that caused although, it wasn't when you were closing the door, you didn't slam the door, you just only opened it, but maybe that was enough, so, I don't know. Anyway, so I got a broom, and there were all these crystals shattered on the ground, so I cleaned up the whole thing. I just arrived, so cleaned up the whole thing and took my bath, and then went downstairs and met Tredas and told him this very interesting thing that had happened. And then he told me the story that yes, this was owned by an old man, and he was very attached, and somehow he wound up committing suicide. And so these things are going on. Some years later, I met Niranjan Maharaj. He said, yeah, I stayed there too, and at night there were like chains clanging, and the usual ghost stuff. I didn't know anything about it, but there you are. So these things go on, ghosts are there, regardless of what the rationalists may think. And they're living beings, but they have no body, and so they're not able to act in a normal way. Maybe they can create disturbances in the atmosphere that'll knock down chandeliers, but they can't properly function. So they're dead men. So Dhruva Maharaj said that, or Prabhupada said that before awakening to Krishna consciousness, we have our sensory activities, but they're like the activities of a dead man, or like the activities of a ghost. They're not the proper, healthy activities of a living being. They're ghostly activities. The ghosts try to enjoy sometimes by taking over someone's body, possession, because they don't have senses to enjoy with. They killed themselves, so they destroyed their senses. Now they don't have physical senses, so they sometimes try to possess someone who does, so that they can enjoy vicariously. But what kind of enjoyment is that? So they're frustrated. Therefore, often the ghosts are depicted that way, frustrated and tortured by their own inability to satisfy their desires. And Prabhupada says that the conditioned souls are like that. They're trying to satisfy their desires, they're trying to achieve something, but they can't satisfy their desires, and whatever they achieve, material nature will smash. They're not in touch with the reality, with the personality of Godhead. So their activities are useless. Prabhupada, like a clock hand outside of the clock. Whatever it does will be meaningless. So sleeping, unless one is spiritually awakened. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has composed a song in which he addresses himself. I've never remembered that Prabhupada said he's addressing himself. Usually we would think he's addressing others. O living entity, get up, Jeev Jago. How long shall you sleep on the lap of Maya? Now you have the opportunity of possessing a human form of body. Now try to get up and realize yourself. The Vedas, this is Kathopanishad, also declare, get up, get up. You have the opportunity, the boon of the human form of life. Now realize yourself. These are the Vedic injunctions. Anyway, I won't sermonize on this, but there it is. Dhruva Maharaj actually experienced that upon enlightenment of his senses on the spiritual platform, he could understand the essence of Vedic instruction. That the Supreme Godhead is the Supreme Person. He's not impersonal. Dhruva Maharaj could immediately understand this fact. He was aware that for a very long time he was practically sleeping, and he felt the impetus to glorify the Lord according to the Vedic conclusion. A mundane person cannot offer any prayer or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusion. What will we say to glorify the Lord if we don't understand anything about the impersonalists? What will they say? My dear Lord, you have no form, you have no qualities, you have no... Thanks. So dadami buddhi yogam tam, when the devotee is sincere, then Krishna gives him realization. Tanum Swam, this is also Kathopanishad. When he's pleased with someone, he reveals himself. He's not understandable by mental speculation, by philosophical deduction. We can scoff and say, blah, blah, blah. But we have no access. We have no access. By yoga, by jnana, by karma, by any other method, we won't be able to understand the personality of Godhead. But when he reveals himself, then everything's understood. So Krishna revealed himself to Dhruva Maharaj, and by the touch of the Lord, the conch shell of the Lord, conch shell of the Lord is not different from the Lord. The Lord is in his name, the Lord and his paraphernalia, they're identical. So the Dhruva Maharaj became, his senses were awakened. It's a tangible experience. The non-devotees are sleeping. We have expressions like going around in circles, or they're just dull. We are just dull. We think that we're doing something when we're, pounding nails or teaching school or doing a this or doing a that, and making music, this, that. And it's all of no consequence, no meaning, but we think, I'm doing this. But our senses are really, we're in slumberland. But by the touch of the Lord, Dhruva's senses were awakened, and therefore he wanted to glorify the Lord. This is real. As long as we're denying the personality of Godhead, we're on the lap of the witch Maya, and therefore we're like dead men or sleeping men. But Dhruva Maharaj was enlivened by the touch of Krishna. When Dhruva Maharaj therefore found this difference within himself, he could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. We chant Hare Krishna and there's a difference. Something changes. If we go on chanting Hare Krishna, we tangibly experience that something is changing here. Therefore we see devotees can give up their material attachments, they can give up their material habits, they can give up, because their consciousness has changed. Otherwise, keeping the same consciousness, we'll have all these therapies and methods and procedures and this and that, but nothing really changes. Nothing really changes. But the devotee, when he comes in touch with the Lord, he becomes enlivened. He becomes enlivened. He feels, yes, now I've come in touch with Krishna. So he offered obeisances to the Lord with great respect and reverence, completely understanding that the Lord's favor was upon him. This spiritual enlivenment of his senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord. We're chanting Hare Krishna, praying to the internal energy of the Lord, praying to the Lord along with his internal energy. Please give me life. Please, enliven me in devotional service. In this verse, therefore, the word swadhamna means by spiritual energy. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of the spiritual energy of the Lord. Chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is first addressed to the spiritual energy of the Lord, Hare. This spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. When a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called sevan mukha. Sevan mukha hi jivado svayameva sparachana. At that time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. Everything depends on the spiritual energy. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. Any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified, and he engages only in the service of the Lord. At that time, his hands, legs, ears, tongue, mind, genitals, everything engage in the service of the Lord. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. This process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti, or devotional service. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and Shastra. And after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization they're engaged in spiritual understanding. Any questions? Yes, Gail, the infallible.
Oh my God, so many things. Okay, so many things, but this issue of Dhruva becoming enlivened, his senses becoming enlivened. And I think there was, at one point you read that happens for a person who has become completely surrendered to the Lord. So I'm wondering, in Dhruva's case, what that actually means, because he was worshiping Vishnu or Narayan for a kingdom greater than even his grandfather. So even though that was his motive, we would still say that he was completely surrendered?
Yes. Narad Muni said, do this. He did it.
Okay, so surrender doesn't depend on your motive.
No. Someone surrenders even with a material motive, but he surrenders. All right, you surrender, I'll take you. Even if there's some, that's Krishna's mercy. Even if there's some material motive, who comes pure?
Huh?
Who comes pure?
Who comes pure?
Who comes in a pure state? Who comes to Krishna in the beginning pure? There has to be some...
Okay.
Yeah, you got the grammar.
Yeah.
By what is it? Prabhupada said, like conforming. What is it? There's an expression here. It means I don't know if I can find it, or looking back again. But he agreed to comply. He said, all right, what you want me to do, that's what I'll do. Korishe vachanam tava, the Bhagavad Gita at the end. Yes, I'll do what you say. In the beginning, Nayotsyati Govinda, I won't fight. And at the end, yes, I'll do what you tell me. So that's being, Prabhupada says elsewhere, malleable to the will of the Lord. Yes, what you say, I'm ready to do. I don't have a separate program. So just see, in the beginning, I want a king. It's like Kshatriya spirit, Prabhupada talks about it, I want a kingdom. I'll do anything. I want a bigger kingdom. I want a bigger kingdom than my Kshatriya. And Narada Muni said, well, you should be equipoised in all circumstances and see all, be equal toward happiness and distress, and just tolerate. No! Yes, I know that your instructions are right, they're true, everything, it's all good, but I'm not a Brahmin. I'm not a philosopher. I'm the son of a Kshatriya, and I want a kingdom. That was his nature. But still, because he wanted the kingdom, well, this is the way to get it. Everyone said, you have to get it from Lord Narayan. All right, then I'll go to Lord Narayan then. So for whatever reason, what is that? Kamat, krodhat, dveshat. If someone approaches Krishna because of lust, because of anger, because of envy, at any reason someone approaches Krishna, he can be engaged in devotional service. The gopis approached Krishna not because they were looking for the absolute truth, but because he was a beautiful young boy and they were attracted. That's all. But Krishna didn't say, no, I'm sorry, you're not philosophers. Go back home, I'm not interested. You're approaching me, I'll reciprocate. Well, this is Krishna's mercy and Krishna's nature.
Okay, also, Maharaj, maybe I have to get there to really understand it, so I don't even know if you can answer this question, but when we hear that a person's senses become enlightened or enlivened.
Enlivened, yes.
Yeah. Like I see the table, I see the books, I see so many things, or I smell so many things, or I feel so many things, the sense objects are perceptible. So I'm just wondering how those perceptions will differ.
Just like you're in your home or you're in the temple, and then you decide to join the kirtan party that day. Mm. And then when you go out and join the kirtan party, everything changes. Those who live in the ashram, they have experience, it's like, the temple president, blah, 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 this devotee, blah, 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 they don't have the right kind of food. Blah, blah, blah. And then you go out on kirtan and it melts, right? It just goes away. And you feel so You feel happy, you feel enlivened. What is that? Prasanna Chaita Sarvyashu. One becomes happy-minded very quickly. So one becomes enlivened. The same person who was thinking, I don't know if I can go out, and I think there's a cold coming on, and it's, let the weather happen. Ooh. And then he goes out and he just feels it's so wonderful.
Oh, that's what enlightenment means?
That's enlivened, yeah.
What? I've gotten that.
You've gotten that, right? We've all gotten some taste of being enlivened by devotional service. What is that? No, I've forgotten the verse. Anyway, it's there. Second chapter Bhagavatam. We become enlivened. So that experience is there. But to what degree, with Dhruva Maharaj, imagine seeing the personality of Godhead and being touched by his conch shell, he became enlivened. And Prabhupada gives the example, maybe it's an adjacent purport, from his own experience, that when you write in the service of Krishna, then Krishna enlivens you.
So it sounds like it means, you become happier because not just because, but, you become happier, and your whatever material concerns you had, you become oblivious to them, or?
You become connected to Krishna. So when you're cooking for Krishna, or you're cleaning for Krishna, or you're going out and sing kirtan for Krishna, you're doing something for Krishna, and it's enlivening. It's enlivening. Because you're doing it for Krishna, you're doing it in connection with Krishna. Krishna gives you not just happiness, because it's not always happiness, sometimes it's like rough going, but you feel still a kind of inspiration. Yes, I want to do this for Krishna's service. So there's life. We're not dead men anymore. The materialists are dead men. They want dead things. A new iPhone.
Dead means temporary things. Huh?
Yeah, they want temporary things, material things. That means how do we become enlivened? I'm enlivened to have dead things. I want to connect myself with something dead. I identify myself with this dead material body. What is their enlivenment? Yeah, we're gay, and we're proud that we're gay. And they're enlivened about that, or whatever it is, We're proud that we're Puerto Rican, or we're proud that we're Jewish, or we're proud that we're this, we're proud that we're that. Yeah. But their enlivenment is in relationship to something dead, something that has no life. The designations of a material body that's meant to be eaten by the vultures, or turned to ashes in the fire, or what have you. So that's not life. Just like we see people in the mode of ignorance, and we think that, what kind of life is this, right? Some drunkard, and he may be happy, he's singing, but he's like totally. We used to see them when Prabhupada was there at 22nd Avenue. Nearby there would be bums in the winter standing next to some fire. They look all frowsy, and they've got a broken arm that they fixed up at the shelter someplace, and they're singing. But normal person looks and thinks, what kind of life is this? And even coming up here in Grand Central, in Penn Station, we saw, there's people who were like living underground there. That's where they sleep and so on. And we think, what kind of life is that? Those in the mode of goodness will think these people are just sleeping. They're asleep in more ways than one. But those who are on the transcendental platform, they think that even those in the mode of goodness are sleeping. You're thinking this is the perfection of life, to become vegetarian, and vegan, campaign for some animal rights. have to become enlivened in relation to the Supreme Life. And then, is that okay?
Yeah. Can I squeeze in?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, just wondering, what is it about Dhruva's austerities that made him so weighty?
What is it about austerities that make them so weighty? I don't really know. You know, it's like, why austerity? Why not something else? But that's what it is, that Krishna has put potency in austerity. He's in three things, actually: in sacrifice, in charity, and austerity. Yagyadana tapastraiva pavanani manishina. These are purifying even for the great souls. Why is it that just by giving charity you become purified? Of course, we can reasonably explain that I'm giving up an attachment and so on, but something about it. Charity is purifying. The Muslims are very much into charity. The Christians are very much into charity. The Hindus are very much into charity. That it's a universally acknowledged that charity is purifying. Of course, different, it's charity in different modes of nature, but still, charity is purifying, even for the great souls. Similarly, sacrifice. Why sacrifice? It's purifying.
Well, one explanation I heard about sacrifice, charity, and austerity is that they are all three types of sacrifice that bring you closer to the nature of the soul. Charity.
We're giving up our material profit, our material interests for some higher purpose, whether it's the good of others or what have you. But I'm giving something up. That becomes a source of purification. And when I give it up for Krishna, then it becomes the best method of purification, or the best kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, can my last one be about the ghosts?
About the ghosts?
Yeah, because, ghosts, as we were saying, they don't have gross body, right? And so, and they're frustrated because of it. But if they don't have gross body, which works in conjunction, I think, with the subtle senses, then how can they, like that ghost in that room, how could he have even seen that there was a chandelier there?
How do you move the chandelier if you don't have senses? This is a long-standing topic in philosophy. It comes under the larger category of the mind-body problem, and it's much discussed amongst philosophers. And there are those who will say that because that there can't be a mind, by which they mean something different from matter. We would say the soul. There can't be a mind, because if the mind is categorically different from matter, how could it have an effect on matter? They have arguments that go along those lines. But we see practically that these things are a fact.
But we say that the mind is matter.
Well, yeah, by mind they mean something other than matter. Their terminology is different. But they mean something different from physical existence. We say the mind is still physical existence, but in any case, they have the idea that, all right, you say you're a dualist, you say that there's matter and then there's mind or consciousness or atma, whatever it is, but that can't be possible, because how could such a thing have an effect on matter? That's the position they take, and it's more complicated than that, but it's comes down to that. But then, for us, what's the problem? Consciousness is superior energy. It can, everything. Even somebody built this table, it's really built on consciousness. A dead woodworker couldn't have made this table. Consciousness ultimately brought about the effect, of course, through the instruments of the senses, and it happened. But consciousness is at the base of it. So then No, you can do it without the senses also. You can do it without the senses. And we see this in Bhagavatam all the time, that just by consciousness, the yogis are able to create, Karda Muni was able to create an airplane that was like an island. Or the yogis can do so many things by consciousness alone. And there's, of course, the realm of parapsychology, which scientists hate. The evidence can be as good or better than other evidence, but they don't like it because it implies that there's something different from the body. But there's lots and lots of evidence along those lines for those who study it. Otherwise, we can take it from Bhagavatam. We can take it from our practical experience of chandeliers crashing to the floor.
Well, I would think that the chandelier guy, he must have had some mystic city to be able to do
Mystic
that.
just means you don't know how to do it.
Yeah, but I mean to say, for him to do that kind of magic.
These things are there all over. Magic just means, again, you don't have, like Piari, he does all these magic tricks, right? You know Piari Mohan?
The chandelier guy, he knows how to do it.
He knows how to do it. The children go, ah. But for the person who knows how to do it.
These things, right? The ghosts who can do these things, just because of their consciousness.
Yeah, it's not like the ghost has to be, practicing some sort of yoga or something. Automatically that happens. Because of his anger, because of his intense feelings. His subtle body is able to, just not able to, naturally does these things. Just like even subtly, you don't have to be a mystic. Somebody comes in the room and he's angry and he's this, the whole room changes, doesn't it? He doesn't have to say anything, he doesn't have to do anything. The whole room changes, everybody feels, ooh.
The energy.
Everybody feels a change of energy. Even a rationalist will think, ooh, watch out for this one. Because the consciousness has an effect. What was I thinking of? Yeah, I'll tell you another spooky story. When I was living in San Diego, one of our members called me up and he was in terrible distress. He'd been living next to the Los Angeles temple, he and his wife and son, and he'd moved away to Long Beach, if you know where that is. It's, too far to come to the temple. So the city some distance away. But then his wife had died. And first he moves away from the temple, then his wife dies. And then he was terribly upset because he was walking past a graveyard and he thought that some discarnate entity, some ghost must have possessed him because strange things were happening in his house. The lights would go on and off with no reason. Things started like knives would float through the air in the kitchen. Things would crash. All this like craziness was going on in his house. And he called me up. He said, I think when I passed the graveyard, some ghost must have come upon me. What do I do? So I asked him, I didn't know, is there some adolescent in your house? He said, yes, my son was an adolescent. So I put him in touch with someone at the University of California who studies these things. This is called poltergeist phenomena. And I called up like a super expert on these things. And he gave me a very cogent explanation that because we see that in the presence of the adolescent, these things happen. If there's a very disturbed adolescent, and this adolescent was disturbed because his mother had, sort of, anyway, it's a whole story, but he felt totally neglected, and now his mother had died, and so he was a very disturbed young boy. And in his presence, all of these things would happen. So I called up this fellow, and he explained to me that the disturbance in the person creates a disturbance in the atmosphere. Just as, a person gets, what is that called? Epilepsy. And, the whole body goes into a fit because there's some psychic disturbance. I don't mean psychic in a spooky sense. There's some disturbance of the mind. Because the mind's disturbed, everything becomes disturbed. The whole body becomes disturbed. So he said that this is a similar phenomenon, except that disturbance projects itself beyond the body into the environment. And there are many, many, many recorded cases of these things, which again, scientists don't like and don't like to accept. But there's, lots of instances all over the world. It's sort of common people are used to not used to it, but they we all know somebody who's had weird experiences. Common enough. So I don't want to go too much into those things. But the idea is that consciousness can make things happen and matter. And there's lots of experimental evidence to that effect, and practical experience also.
Yeah, you had another ghost story session at Second Avenue.
Yeah, we're not.
Many years ago, you told the same.
I told the same story. Okay, good. Glad I didn't tell new ones, or didn't have new ones to tell. Yes.
Can you pinpoint when in Maharaj's journey, can you pinpoint when in his journey he became surrendered?
When in the journey I became surrendered?
No, when Maharaj in the forest.
Oh, Dhruva Maharaj. I was wondering, I thought it was going to be about me. I was going to tell you that. I'm still waiting, yeah. When he became surrendered. Well, he was surrendered from the very beginning. Actually, his first guru was his mother. Or you can even say his stepmother, who insulted him and said, if you want to get anywhere, you're going to have to go get help from Narayan. So even then, so he wasn't quite surrendered to that. But then when his mother instructed him, yes, you have to find Narayan, he accepted. So, all right. Sure. Even when for our material desires, we surrender. We, how do I become rich? How do I learn how to do this? You do it this way. All right, I surrender. You go to the doctor says, do it this way, these pills at this time, and you surrender. We all surrender to some extent or other, in some circumstance or other. And all right, whatever my motive was, if I follow the process, I should get the results. It's not
But he got a much better kingdom, didn't he? He got a much better kingdom.
Much better kingdom,
Yeah.
that we know at the end.
Not a material kingdom.
Not a material kingdom. He gets, and in the beginning, and Prabhupada often quotes this, that I was looking for some broken glass and I found a jewel. So that we all come and we surrender because we're suffering so much that, all right, let me try it. Let me try it. Or we have some other reason, my girlfriend is doing it, let me do it also. But for whatever reason it is, we take it up. That's the beginning of our surrender. We could be doing something else. We don't have to be sitting here chanting. We could be out, chasing something or other. But we agree, all right, let me do it. That's surrender. What is that? Shraddha. I have a little confidence, a little faith, a little interest. All right, let me try it. Then what happens from that? Sadhu Sanga. We associate with the devotees. And then bhajana kriya, because we're associating with the devotees, because we have some initial surrender, then we take up the process. Person without that initial surrender, he doesn't take it up. Maybe he goes, he watches, but he's not willing. But at some point he may, by good association, he becomes willing. All right, let me also do something.
And when does he realize that he has found the true kingdom? Is it when he sees
realize that
Krishna,
he's found the true kingdom?
Or is it when he sees Krishna, or is it before that, or?
I missed.
Is it when he sees Krishna?
In Dhruva Maharaj's case, that's what it was. He actually saw Krishna within his heart. Before he saw the Lord outside, he saw the Lord inside. So then he was in ecstasy, absorbed in thought of Krishna. Then Krishna appeared externally, but even internally, he was seen. So there was, and Prabhupada said that at some point, that his service becomes directly service to the Lord as his realization increases. In the beginning, we're serving the deity. Okay, Guru Maharaj told me, get up and offer Mangal Arati and 2 sticks of incense and lamp, and we do it. But as one advances, one feels that Krishna is present. That it's not just a doll that we're worshiping because we've got, this is Vaishnava teaching, but one starts to experience that actually Krishna is here. Sometimes we have some problem, and we say to Krishna, I can't solve my problem, please help me. And Krishna does it. We get the experience that I surrendered to Krishna, I put my problem before Krishna, and Krishna solved it. And one gets confident, oh, wait a second, this is working. This is working. Something more than my own capability has come into play here. So people experience that God is real. And in different ways they have that experience. Everything is individual, and nothing is stereotyped. It's not, anyway, it's not stereotyped. Dhruva Maharaj realized it one way. Prahlad Maharaj realized it another way. Sukadeva Goswami by speaking, Maharaj Parikshit by hearing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially recommends hearing and chanting. By hearing and chanting, the heart will become purified, we'll realize Krishna's presence. And it doesn't have to be, on January 23rd, my third eye awakened, and then I opened up, and then I awakened to spiritual realization. But it's a process. Prabhupada called it a gradual cleansing process. So, Prabhupada didn't give this example, but you get up in the morning and you look at your watch and you can't quite read the numbers. I have some ointment I put in my eye at night for an eye condition. I wake up in the morning, I look at my watch, and is that a 0 or a 3? But by a gradual process, okay, that's a 3.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your time and for the class. The question I had was from the translation, and it said, "You have enlivened all my sleeping senses," and in this particular translation, it really focused on the power of speech. So does that mean that when we are in that enlivened state, all the senses all the dead senses again, or enlivened senses, why is speech
Because
chosen?
that's contextual.
Okay.
Why is Prabhupada, when he says all the senses, why is he emphasizing speech? It's according to the context. Dhruva Maharaj wants to offer prayers, but he's dumbstruck. He can't say anything. So then Krishna touches him and he becomes enlivened, he can speak. But it can happen in any, it can be, even a person who can't speak, he can write, but he can't write, but then he can write. He gets enlivened, he gets inspiration, he gets some realization, then he can write. Or a person doesn't know how to do something or has no impetus to do something, but then it catches hold. Krishna inspires him, yes, you can do this. And he does it. So it may be speaking, it may be writing, it may be undertaking any service for Krishna. When Krishna enlivens the devotee, then the devotee can do it. Devotees become enlivened to distribute books.
The other follow-up on this was, we said, when the Lord is pleased with someone, he reveals himself and everything is revealed. When we say everything, can you elaborate what everything looks
Everything?
like?
Everything means everything according to the context. It doesn't mean that now all of a sudden I see all the planetary systems and all the living beings in every planetary system. They're not like that. But he sees reality. Now I'm seeing the reflection of reality. And when I'm awakened, I see the reality itself. So that may not mean that I see every detail that exists in reality, but I'm seeing reality, not the reflection. So I was seeing without Krishna, and I'm seeing with Krishna. It's, as they say, night and day. Is that okay?
And one more last question is that how we talked about, we get that experience when we are in kirtan, like versus when we do other activities. So when we realize that difference, when we are connected with Krishna and not, how can we constantly be in that state? Because we know outside of association or outside of
By
kirtan.
constantly serving. How do we get a little glimpse of what it's like to be Krishna conscious while we're chanting or while we're doing something. Then how do I feel that all the time? I have to serve all the time. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. She had a question.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. It's really difficult to understand that Krishna's form and person and name are not different because we don't really have that experience in the material world. So, intuition is telling me the form is different from the person, from the name. So even when you were telling the story, my dumb material mind, is thinking, the Lord only touched Dhruva with his conch shell. I was like, oh no. Would Dhruva Maharaj feel bad that he didn't touch him personally with his hand?
No.
In my mind, I even made the distinction, which I understand is stupid, but it's also difficult to kind of not make that distinction because of our experiences and the material mind.
Yeah, that's the material mind.
Yeah.
It messes everything up. But even materially, we have some experience. Just like someone, typically in the Indian families, there's always a picture of the mother and father in the home. Right? We always keep a picture of our mother and father in the home. Or a businessman, he always keeps a picture of his wife on his desk. And by seeing the picture, we feel that in some way, my mother and father or my wife is present. Isn't it so? It's we feel that they're present. Not exactly the same way, but still, if the picture goes missing or something, then we're disturbed. Why? Because now my wife isn't there, or my parents are not there. Where did they go? So it's a crude example, but we feel that there's some presence there. We feel that there's some oneness between the picture and if someone would like to trash the picture of your wife, you come into your office and one of your colleagues has trashed your wife's picture. That's like serious business. Well, why? It's just a batch of, ink on paper. But no, you feel immensely offended. Because the wife is present in some way in the picture. Jadharani Dasi once asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, are you present in your picture? And Prabhupada said, if you're thinking of me, then I'm there. So when we're thinking of Krishna, then we've experienced the presence of Krishna in the holy name of the deity, when we're giving attention. If we're negligent, then we don't get that full experience. So the devotee learns by practice how to give attention to the holy name, how to give attention to the deity. Is that okay? Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. So you mentioned that no one would approach, who's already pure, no one would approach Krishna.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. And Dhruva Maharaj, if I remember correctly, feels a bit of guilt and shame after his
Yes.
senses are enlivened. And for us, knowing Bhagavad Gita and how we categorize in these neophyte types of devotees who approach Krishna, I definitely serve from a place of maybe some joy, but mostly oh God, I'm a neophyte who's motivated in some type of way. It makes me serve nonetheless, but that just goes on forever.
Well, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prabhupada said, is telling himself.
Yeah.
Right? I don't remember having seen that, but there it is. I'm sure I read it before. How long are you going to go on with this? You nonsense, sleeping on the lap of Maya. So, in one sense you could say he's berating himself. So the devotee also, how long are you going to go on with this? With your stupid attachments and your lust and your distraction and your foolishness. So even by thinking in that way, one becomes purified. Krishna, how long is this going to go on? And Krishna sees, yes, he's desiring to be Krishna conscious. Yeah?
So, with Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Dhruva Maharaj, you sort of feel that guilt is a different guilt. It's like a high kind of.
Still, we feel that, I was going to sit down to read Bhagavatam, and then I wound up reading my Facebook feed. And it's like she got me again. And then we feel like that was pretty stupid. And if, like Dhruva, he was very determined. Dhruva means determination. So by determination, we hope to overcome these things, or by Krishna's mercy, that we'll be able to come to a higher platform, so that the distractions get put aside. Sometimes Krishna helps. We're distracted by wealth, we're distracted by a beautiful girl, and then the deal falls through, and the girl, moves to California. Just Krishna may help us one way or another. Or we get some realization, what am I doing? But this is the process. We have our attachments, we have our weaknesses, we have all of Hriday Daurbalyam, weakness of heart. All of that is there. But by practicing Bhakti Yoga, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, Mukta Sangasya Jayate, one gets transcendental knowledge. Evam Prasannam Manaso, Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga. By the touch of Bhakti Yoga, one becomes enlivened. And he becomes a liberated soul. Okay? Okay. Shall we stop here? Is that our program? Yeah, we can stop here. All right. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.